The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Today we've got a supersized episode coming your was as Amber and Scott got very chatty after watching The Housemaid. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
I'm renaming this movie to Magic Mountain.
Why?
Because we were on one long roller coaster all the way from the beginning to the end.
That is true. That is a fair analogy for today's episode, The Housemaid. Trying to escape her past, Millie accepts a job as a live-in housemaid for the wealthy Nina and Andrew Winchester. But what begins as a dream job quickly unravels into something far more dangerous.
Okay, so we always have a spoiler warning at the beginning of our shows.
Yes,
which is supposed to warn. I'm actually, in not normal fashion, going to repeat that spoiler warning. If you haven't seen this movie, don't listen to this episode yet. Because if I'm not going to see this movie, you should. Just you should.
It's 2 hours and 11 minutes of goodness. It's a good film.
Riveted.
Yeah.
So please, last chance, stop this, watch the movie, and then come back. Even if it's later, it's fine.
Yeah, definitely a must-see film. Very interesting. And even if you think you know what's happening, you don't know what's happening. So go see it and come back and visit us because we don't want to ruin it for you because it's that good.
Yeah.
Okay, that said.
Now, beep. That was fucked up.
That was like days worth of movie crammed into 2 hours and 11 minutes. There was so much going on, so much happening. If we did the play-by-play of everything that happened in the film, this would be a 3-hour episode. Yes, longer than the actual movie.
I don't know who wrote the movie, but I am never pissing them off.
I think it was based on a book. And
I don't know who wrote that book, but I am never pissing them off.
Yeah. Wow. There is so much to unpack here. But let's just give a reminder to folks who went and listened to the movie and just now came back and listened to it, what this film is about. So we have Millie, and she's sleeping in her car, and she desperately needs a job. And we later learn it's because she killed someone when she was in school, and it winds up being a justifiable reason. She's not a psycho or anything.
Well, I mean, she did appear to lose her mind in the moment, but it was a justifiable reason to put her into that position.
So
I believe her roommate was being raped. Yeah.
So she was sentenced to 15 years in prison for manslaughter. She served 10, and she got out, and she needs to have a job and a place to live, which is pretty much par for the course of when you're released from prison. And she's desperately trying to find this job. She lies on a resume. She gets a job as a housemaid, which is kind of like a live and help, cooking, cleaning, helping with the kid. And she doesn't expect to get this job because it's this fancy house, and she ends up getting a call from the very together wealthy woman of the house that, sure, come work for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, for her, this was a dream position. Like, you're no longer sleeping in your car. You're able to make money. You have viable or verifiable employment.
And you get to live in a really nice house.
Yeah. So
with someone who seems very nice and very friendly and very happy to have you there.
Yes. Seems until... And mind you, almost immediately she started seeing some red flags.
Millie, yeah.
When there's a deadbolt on the outside, and the only way is the outside, that's...
Well, a deadbolt on the outside isn't a problem. A deadbolt on both sides where you have a key is the problem. Most deadbolts are on the outside. But
no, I mean, it was on the outside of the room. There was not a corresponding way to unlock it from the inside.
It was 2 keys with no twist to do it. So it was a key on each side.
No, I don't even think she had a key on her side. It was literally built as a single-sided deadbolt. Okay. You couldn't even get to it.
Okay.
It was creepy. It was really creepy. So, but here's the thing. If I'm in her position, I don't know what's going on there or why clearly it's something old, yeah, you just kind of write it off as nothing because you need a job and you need
and
a place to
everything
live.
seems nice and normal. It's a nice house. It's a nice woman who hired you, and they're all very happy to have you there. So it seems
when you interview, they give you part of charcuterie board and all these little appetizers and
tarts and paid for your parking
and $20 for your gas and time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no reason for you to be suspicious. So I don't even know where there was a couple of things here that are obvious issues. One being the relationship between Millie and the man of the house, Andrew, which obviously is an absolute must explore. But beyond that, there are 35 other things we could spend talking here. So what particularly do you want to discuss as of what would you do?
I'm trying to figure out what is the point when you're like, nah, dog, I'm out. So let's the papers, the missing notes. Do you tap out at that point?
Okay, so yes, Millie, refreshing people's memories because they went and watched the film and came back. Millie wakes up, she comes down, and she sees, I forgot her name. What's her name? Nina, tearing apart the kitchen, throwing things around, breaking things, having an absolute tantrum saying, Millie threw out my notes for my speech for the PTA meeting. And Millie's like, no, I didn't. And Nina's just trashing the joint. You threw them away. And basically, Andrew comes to calm her down, and Millie has to basically say, I'm sorry, even though she didn't do anything.
Yeah, I'm hoisting a massive red flag at this point.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm not leaving.
I mean, that would be very alarming to be blamed for something you didn't do, especially, I mean, in any job. When you start a new job, you want to be competent and helpful and capable. And if someone says you did something and you absolutely didn't, that's a terrible position to be in. And we see that behavior throughout the film. Another episode was when Nina asked Millie to buy concert tickets and a suite for her and Andrew to go somewhere for the weekend, and then denies it and said, Millie, you're such a screw up. You spent all this money on these tickets and the suite, and we're not even going to be around the weekend. Why would you do that? I'm taking it out of your pay. Oh my gosh. At that point, I'd want every assignment written down.
I mean, in retrospect, it was a diabolical plan by her. Like, you get to this point where you're thinking she's schizophrenic. Like, she actually has drugs for schizophrenia in the cabinet. Are drugs for schizophrenia, if you saw those, would that be a red flag for you?
Yeah, I mean, we also see the nannies talking and saying, Nina was on drugs and tried to drown her kid, and Nina's been in and out of psych wards, and you hear all of that, and then you see all these medications in the cupboard, and yeah, you think you've gotten yourself into a real situation.
So, believe it or not, I disagree. I actually see it as closer to a green flag, or maybe a yellow flag.
Okay, are we getting on the soapbox, the medication soapbox?
Well, I always get on the anytime we're mental health. Listen, we have mental health issues. We can't help what our brains go. I mean, not mostly unless you've just done a bunch of drugs and screwed up your head. You can't control what your brain does or doesn't do. The red flag is if you have it and you don't go to get it treated. If you do go to get it treated, and at least that has to be the perception at that moment that, okay, well, she's on these. But I will also say this. You go on those pills to regulate you. And when you start behaving in the fashion that Nina was, these are antipsychotics stuff. I have been on antipsychotics, at least at one point in my life, not for a while, but let me tell you, there is no chance in hell Nina is acting the way she is if she's on an antipsychotic. It basically strips you of your personality. It's not great, but...
Well, and fast forward to our spoiler, none of it was really even necessary.
Yeah, so we basically get this thing over and over where Nina is just straight gaslighting Millie. If you ever want to know what gaslighting truly looks like, watch the first part of this movie. That is gaslighting.
Yeah, Nina calls Millie once and says, "Oh, can you go pick up Cece, her daughter, at ballet?" and hangs up. Doesn't tell her where it was, so she tries her best to identify the ballet studio. She finds it, and another mom says, "No, Cece's coming to spend the night with us. I don't know why you would be here." And Millie says, "Well, Nina sent me." And the mom calls Nina, and Nina says, "No, you're wrong. Have a great time at the sleepover. I don't know why Millie's there." Oh my gosh, if that was me and I was Millie, I would be applying for any fast food job to get the heck out of there, because there is something radically wrong.
Well, and she was starting to try to get the hell out of there. I get her position. I would say by the time we've done both the concert tickets and the pickup from school thing, at this point, you have to know that there is something extremely wrong here. I go back to my parole officer and say, "Listen, I desperately wanted this job. But she did this, and she did this, and she did this. And I was truly, honestly scared for my life being in that house." She showed that she could get very physical if she wanted to when she trashed the joint. So,
well, I would modify that slightly and maybe talk to the parole officer before you quit, other than saying I did this, because the parole officer doesn't care at the end of the day. You need a job and you need a home.
Yes, I actually do agree with that. You go to the parole officer while you're still employed, being like, I have to quit. I literally am scared that I will wind up dead if I do not quit.
Yeah, and so fast forward to why all of this is happening and why we didn't want you to listen to this episode before you watch the film. Basically, this is a master plot of Nina to get out of a relationship with Andrew.
Yeah, so the concert tickets was brilliant.
Yeah.
So she hires Millie because she knows that Millie is her husband's type. She has them book a romantic getaway on a weekend
for Nina and Andrew.
On a weekend when she knew she was going to be gone, but her husband wasn't. So she also knew that Millie didn't have anyone.
Yeah, because actually Millie didn't pull the wool over Nina's eyes with the falsified resume. Nina knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew who Millie was, and she knows that she served time, and she didn't have friends, and she didn't have a job, and she was living in her car, and was a perfect person to fall off the radar, and we'll explain that more in a moment.
Yeah, and by the way, just as a side note, he was like, "We'll just have the charges reversed." And couldn't. And let me just tell you, from a legal perspective, that's completely right. You cannot have that purchase. You can't have purchase reversed when they gave you everything they promised and it was just buyer's remorse. So, but I'm sure, again, she knew that. This was a hell of a plan. So, yeah, she's got no one. She knows her husband will be like, "Hey, how about you and I go?" And I'm sure she knows how her husband is, and one thing was going to lead to another. Okay,
so let's take a step back just for a moment, because prior to that, Millie can't sleep, and she goes down to Andrew's man cave, which she has been given permission to go hang out at, and she's watching TV, and then Andrew comes down, and after Nina comes down, basically says, "Andrew, go to bed," she says to Millie, "Stay away from my husband," after she tries to fire her. But Millie begs to keep the job, and she says, "Stay away from my husband and don't dress like that," because Millie was all about having her boobs front and center. So Millie has been told by the wife who hired her, "Stay away from my husband." And Andrew says, "Hey, let's not let those tickets go to waste. Let's go to the theater." And Millie says, "Yes." Millie says, "Yes." What would you do? At a minimum, I would say, because at this point, we don't know what's happening. We don't know that there's this plot and Nina's actually in danger and whatnot. We just know that Nina seems crazy and Andrew seems normal. So what would you do? If I was Millie, I would say, "Andrew, thank you for the kind invitation. Your wife seems uncomfortable with me spending time with you. I don't want to rock the boat. Thank you for the generous offer. I'm going to pass."
So I would do some of that, but not all of it. I would go to Andrew and say, "Listen, your wife told me, quote, stay the fuck away from my husband." So that is what she has told me. It is my inclination to pass on this invitation based on that. What say you? Because I think you could figure out fairly quickly that he was the source of the money. So
He has a snooty mom, and
yeah, she's going to override, or he's going to override Nina if need be. So theoretically, you're not actually worried about getting fired unless it's by Andrew. So if Andrew's still, you know what, she's just like that. Come on. If I'm her, I'm probably going.
but for me, I wouldn't want to suffer the wrath of that. Even if he says, come on, do you think that there's not going to be fallout from that?
Well,
I mean, because number one, best case scenario, you have a secret with the boss. Just saying that you went to the theater. You have a secret with the boss's husband, because Nina is actually the boss in the situation who hired Millie. So best case scenario, you have the secret that at any point could come out and blow up in your face. Worst case scenario, you are hanging out in this social engagement with this guy who's very charming, and you've had some encounters here where, I don't know, personal space is not an issue, and you're standing very inappropriately close to an employer-employee kind of relationship. And hanging out and having, you want another, what would you do? They go out to dinner after the play or thing, and they have martinis.
Yep.
Do not drink if you're out with the boss, because you need to be top of your game, thinking, prepared.
Yes.
You cannot let your guard down like that. What would you do? Be smarter and use better judgment in not putting yourself where you are potentially impaired when you are hanging out with this apparently psycho boss's husband who you've been told not to hang out with.
You know, here's what I would do. I'd accept the first martini because she was like, I think she had said that she hadn't had martinis, or she was about to find out. And you take a sip of it, because here's the thing. You don't want to make him feel uncomfortable, but you take a sip and you're like, oh, okay. So I've just learned now that I don't like martinis. So I'm going to let you finish off the rest of this one. And then he'd be like, well, what do you want to drink? You know what? Here's the thing. I'm actually good. I actually am not looking for alcohol here. I'm great. So you have fun, but I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, because those alcoholic drinks end up evolving into we're both impaired. We can't drive home. Oh, we're going to stay at the hotel, but we're not going to use the suite that you mistakenly bought. But we're going to get two separate rooms. They're across from each other. Everything's kosher. But then Millie, her phone was dead up till now. She plugs it in at the hotel and gets a slew of messages from Nina saying, "Where are you? Clean the walls. You know, I need to talk to you. Where are you?"
Put the green bin out.
Yeah, and so Millie walks over to Andrew's room saying, oh my gosh, what do I do? And then Andrew says, well, I know what you do. Let's get it on.
Yeah, this was peak Nina right here. She knows exactly what's going on. She times all of her messages and makes sure that she says, you're fired, which is the second time she's tried to fire her. So your only hope of keeping this job is to take this phone over to him and show him this. By the way, I turn off my GPS. I would turn off my GPS in a situation like this. Because, yeah, if she gives you the phone, you have to assume that she's got a way of tracking that phone.
Yeah, Nina gives Millie a family phone with a credit card on it so she can take care of expenses. And then, of course, you can see where Millie is.
I mean, you can't leave the phone at home because you are still under the employee. There could be issues that come up. Turn the damn GPS off so that they don't know where you're at.
See, but then that further falls into, I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing, and I have to hide it.
No, that's, you know what? This is just where you play dumb. Oops.
But it falls in that category of, I now have a secret because I did something I shouldn't have done. At any given moment, it can blow up in my face.
Well, here's the thing. Even if there's no plans to do anything, knowing that Nina doesn't want her close to her husband.
I mean, the answer is not to be close to her husband. I guess the second choice is to try and hide and cover things up and do things like turn off your GPS. But
yeah, because here's the thing. If you're going in with reasonable intentions of he's just literally my company for this show and that's it, it's genuinely kosher, you already know Nina's a little on the psychotic side. So, yeah, I turn off my GPS. And then if it brought up later, oops. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
But then that brings up lies because the next day, they get back, and Nina says, "Where were you? What did you do on your day off?" And Millie then lies, "Oh, I went with a friend and we did this thing." And that's when things start getting messy. Now, granted, all of this doesn't matter. None of this matters because there is something bigger at play.
Yeah. So, yeah, Nina was definitely setting herself up for the fall, which was completely intentional. It's like I say setting up for the fall, but there was no fall.
Yeah, I mean, after I wasn't watching my watch, but probably after an hour and 20 minutes or so of this intense, oh my gosh, Nina's a psycho and Millie's an angel and Andrew is this saint. What did they call him? Just Saint Andrew?
Or just Saint Andrew.
Yeah. That for putting up with Nina and her antics. What it turns out is Andrew's a psycho.
Yeah, so we need to fast forward a little bit here. He tells Nina to get out, which is peak exactly what Nina wanted, to be able to get away, because he had basically trapped her. So she found a way to pawn him off on someone else, on Millie in this case. So now she's no longer...
She who?
Is no longer the object of Andrew's desire. So she's got a way to be free. She doesn't necessarily have much in the way of money, though they are still married. She does have access. I mean, obviously she went and got a good hotel room and a bottle of champagne. She does have money. At that point, I'm like...
She does, but they reference a prenup. So, for the moment, her credit cards haven't been cut off while Andrew is now banging the housemaid, Millie.
Yeah, and
But at the long term, Nina is going to walk away with nothing. And
well, this is when I go to the bank. Before, no one said divorce. All she said was get out. People have said that before. I'm going to the bank and I'm pulling a lot of money. A lot of money that's somewhere that's solely in my name to prevent this.
And the reason that Andrew said get out is because Nina set up Millie again, saying, your car's embarrassing, take my car for errands. And Millie takes her car, does the groceries, and then Nina says, my car was stolen. So at this point, Andrew is fed up with everything. What is wrong with you, Nina? And it blows up that Nina knows about them staying at the hotel and getting together. And that's when Andrew basically says, yeah, you got to go.
Yeah, and then they go bang throughout the house and eventually decide to bang in the attic.
Yeah, Millie thinks she has won the lottery because Andrew is handsome and rich and everybody loves him. And he is the savior and the hero. And now she has access to this amazing house and this amazing life.
Yeah.
And she's hit the jackpot until...
They bang in the attic.
Which had been her room with the...
So I'm a little curious, how did Andrew did he slip her something that he was able to get the sheets off the bed with her on it?
Yeah, I must have.
Either way.
Yeah, he brought up champagne, remember?
He could have easily spiked that.
Yeah.
No problem. Girls, don't drink drinks that guys pour for you unless that guy's actually a bartender.
But you know what? You wouldn't have doubted him. You wouldn't have had your guard up for that. You've been living in their house for at least a month.
Yeah.
And this guy's been your saving grace. You would not think about that. And that's the scary part. And that's the part that guys never will truly understand about what it's like to be a woman, is that someone can be so charming and handsome and successful, but they can still be a psycho who tries to hurt you. And you have to live your life knowing that and telling people or friends when you go on a blind date or where you're going or who it's with or whatnot, because if you end up missing, someone needs to know. And that's something that guys just don't understand. And in this case, you would have no reason to protect yourself against this guy.
Yeah. So when Millie finds herself trapped in the attic, we cut to a scene with Nina writing a letter for her daughter. And what this basically turns into is a giant flashback where it wasn't exactly the same situation as Millie, but he basically lured her into a situation that she couldn't get out of, that no one was going to believe her over gorgeous St. Andrew. And she got trapped. I mean, she was locked in the attic and she was forced to pluck 100 hairs from her head with the follicles. Eventually does it. He says, one of them was missing the follicle, you'll have to do the whole thing over again.
Well, and let's fill in the blank of why that was, is Andrew likes things perfect, apparently, and he kind of made a catty comment about her roots showing. And she was supposed to get it taken care of that day, and the day ends and she comes home and he was like, yeah, you didn't get your roots taken care of. Because obviously at some point while they were dating in those first 6 weeks before he proposed, again, don't marry someone after 6 weeks, people, he had her dye or bleach her hair blonde because she was a brunette when they first met. And he does not like that she did not take care of the roots. And that's the punishment of not doing as she was told and bleaching her hair. Now she has to pull out her hair.
I actually thought originally that was going to be, there was a place where she got her roots done and the dye or whatever they used was like psycho. It had something in it that could actually turn you into who Nina was. Crazy. That just ended up being my theory.
That he was keeping her in a certain state through hair bleaching?
Yes.
I feel like that's something we've seen in some movie or something.
Maybe, I don't know.
Like, it was that movie with Channing Tatum where they're on the island and it's the lotion.
Oh, it's 3 words.
Yeah, it's like don't get out blink. Oh, it's something.
Blink. Blink twice.
Yes.
Blink twice.
Oh, okay. That was hard. Anyway, yeah, and they were kept in a certain state because I believe it was a lotion.
Yeah, so I thought about that, but that ends up not being the case. He is breaking her. Absolutely breaking her.
Yeah, and he won't let her out until she successfully pulls out 100 hairs worth of follicles. And she failed the first time because one didn't have a follicle, so she had to pull out another 100, and then he lets her out, knowing that he has also drugged her when he gave her some water, when he let him in. And then she passes out, and he stages her daughter being in a bathtub and her being knocked out because he's given her something in the water. And the police come, the paramedics come because they think she was drugged up and drowned her daughter.
Yeah.
And at that point going forward, she has no credibility. She has no authority. She is the psycho who almost killed her daughter.
Yeah.
That is terrifying.
It was extremely terrifying. But, I mean, yeah, he is straight up breaking her to the point that she is just, her will is broken and subservient. Or at least so he thought.
So what would you do? I mean, we're talking a lot about the film here, but let's dig into some what would you do's. What would you do if you were Millie going, or let's go, instead of Millie, let's do Nina. What would you do if you had married this man, well, this charming man seemed to save you and proposed after 6 weeks?
I mean, I have rules about that. I have a 12-month minimum. For honestly, part of this exact reason. I won't propose unless we've been together at least 12 months, and I won't marry unless we've been together at least 18 and we've lived in the same house for 3. I need to know you. Those aren't necessarily arbitrary rules. I want to know who you are as a person. You can mask. Masking is easy in that situation. You can be the best guy in the world if you need to for a bunch of dates for 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Everyone is on their best behavior at that point. You even think about a job. You don't really know what a job is like until you have been there a minimum of 90 days. And that's, I think, generally why they have a 90-day probationary period for jobs, is because it really takes you that long to know who all the players are, to see what the job is really like and the personalities and whatnot, because it takes a minimum of 90 days to at least start to see things at least a little bit as they are, regardless of the context.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, no, I'm definitely not getting married that quickly.
And what would you do if you were Nina now, who didn't bleach her hair, got tricked into going into the attic, and then got locked up and could not be released until she successfully plucked the 100 hairs with the follicles?
Yeah. And
realizing that, oh my gosh, this man I've married, this man I love, who I think is Prince Charming, has thrown me in this situation where I am trapped and will not let me out. That is terrifying.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, obviously the whole thing where he gets her thrown into the psych ward. And I want to say, well, when I got out, I'd leave, but there was no opportunity. He literally drugged her while she was still in the room, by giving her water, something she didn't have, or at least enough of by that point, and then staged the whole murder thought. Like he planted everything. It was diabolical.
Yeah, with her daughter Cece. So what would you do if you were Nina and you were all of a sudden had this, oh my God, realization of who the heck am I with?
Well, the problem was she was going to get 9 months to think about it.
Well, she didn't know at the time she was going to go to a psych facility.
But there was literally no break in between when she got thrown into the room and when she got thrown into the psych ward. There was never an opportunity.
There was no break.
There was never an opportunity for her to make a single decision. The only two decisions she made were to drink the water that he gave her and to go downstairs and see her daughter. That's it. Literally the only two decisions she could make. And I can't say that I would do much differently from that. But the water was tainted. It caused her to pass out. When she came to, it was with her daughter in the bathtub, and they had already called for whatever it is, a wellness check. And so he set it up. So like that was it. They took her.
So you had mentioned earlier about Millie. So Millie thinks she's won the lottery, having sex all over the house, and then she, in her life is great, she makes breakfast, she puts them on this special china that is Andrew's mom's, that Andrew had brought over and given the family, that is this special, perfect china that Andrew was served meals on his entire life, and it's special and meaningful and priceless. And Millie thinks she's going to serve this meal to Andrew on this special
Was it special? Was it special?
What do you mean?
The plate, was it special? I'm just curious.
Did I say special a lot?
Yeah, I thought it was funny.
So, long story short, she accidentally drops it.
Yeah, the creepy guy at the
groundskeeper.
Creepy groundskeeper staring in at her.
Startled her. She dropped it.
That's pretty reasonable, honestly.
Perfectly normal accident. He acts as if it's okay and says, put all the dishes, put all the pieces into a bag. I'll get it to my plate guy.
Who the fuck has a plate guy?
Which obviously is insane. So
like, seriously, what does your life look like that you have a plate guy?
There was a couple of things that happened in that film that were similar to I'll send it to my plate guy that you just had to laugh because they were so ridiculous. So she does that, and he sees the bag, but she didn't clean the plates, the shards. And he says, well, you put it all here, but they're dirty. And she's like, I didn't want to cut myself.
Mind you, he told her, don't worry about cleaning or anything else.
Well,
just
cleaning up the issue. I mean, there was a horrible mess all over the place.
But yeah, he said, don't worry about it. And then went back and said...
Well, because he assumed she would do the right thing. And I'm putting air quotes around right. And the right thing was to clean the dishes. So all the shards were clean when they got delivered to the plate guy. She did not do this. She put them in dirty. And much like Nina not getting her hair done, so it was perfect.
Millie got trapped in the attic.
Yeah. So in goes Millie.
Yeah.
So what would you do when you go from, oh my gosh, I'm scared of this person I'm working for. This is the worst job ever. Oh my gosh, I've slept with the boss's wife and I have this house and everything fantastic, to, oh my gosh, I've been locked in this room.
So here's the thing. I'd say I'd break down the door. And it is entirely possible that given enough time, I might be able to do something. But here's the problem. That appeared to be a rather heavy door, and it opened to the inside. If the door opens to the outside, not a problem. You drop a shoulder in that thing, and you can get it open easily. But when it goes to the inside, because of how the doors work, there's more wood holding it. Actually, a frame, and you can't get any swing on the door.
Yeah, the door opens into the room.
Yeah, so it's virtually impossible to break down. I mean, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't. I don't know. I mean, I probably wouldn't stop trying. That's for sure. But, and then he comes back and is like, yeah, I'm going to need you to cut yourself in your stomach 21 times.
Yeah, because there was 21 pieces of plate. Oh my gosh.
My response to that is, bitch! Hell no.
Can you even imagine? He said, make sure they're deep and make sure that they're long. And of course, she says, you're psycho. I'm not doing it. And after staying up there for a while, we don't know how long, she ultimately succumbs and she does it. Oh my gosh. So here's the thing. Sometimes in life, you do what you have to do to survive to get to the other side. And it falls into that category of what would you do? I would not do that until enough time passes. I think about the film Yellow Jackets, where the TV show Yellow Jackets, where, we're lost in the woods and everything's fine and we can live off the land until winter comes and you're starving. And then, I don't know, you start eating people.
Here's what I'm doing. At this point, when he's asked you to make 21 deep cuts, this could actually be something it itself could kill you.
Especially if you're doing it, he wants you to do it with the plate that you dropped that is dirty. So there's the bacteria of the food on the plate that you're putting into your body.
It's not a big window, but I am breaking that window.
And you couldn't reach it, though. I kept thinking of what could you do to get to that window, and I was looking at, okay, so there was a mini fridge there to stand on. But I don't think, even if you stood on it, you couldn't get enough leverage to be able to hit it hard enough as high up as it was.
I mean, you start using that son of a bitch as a trampoline.
Because there's only one window in this room, and it's a small little triangle up way high.
You do whatever you can. But
there's also a camera in there, too. So.
Okay, that's fine. What, he comes in to stop her?
Maybe.
At least then you've got a chance.
Yeah.
At that point. But yeah, no. Here's the thing. If I'm Nina and it's the 100 hairs, it's screwed up, but I'm plucking the hair.
Yeah, you will survive that.
21 deep cuts, you're not getting out of this. You're not getting out of this situation.
On your stomach.
Yeah, so I'm not cutting myself. I'm not going to put myself in a huge blood loss position. I'm going for that window.
I mean, just the thought of someone that you think you can trust and then realizing that, oh my gosh, I have made a huge mistake in misjudging this situation and this person, and the fear that comes from that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working the door. I'm working the window. You know what? I literally will let myself wither away and die before I cut myself. In that situation, if I'm unsuccessful in something where I can break a window and then scream at the top of my lungs, obviously you can't get out the window.
Yeah, and at this point, the groundskeeper has been relieved of his duties. You can scream all you want. There's nobody there that's going to hear you. The property is large and it's gated, and there's nobody who's going to hear you.
Yeah, it's hope against hope that somebody randomly passing by.
I was looking at how you could stack what little was there, and there was a twin bed and a mini fridge, and I was thinking you could put the twin bed on the edge and try and stand up to get to the window, but I don't know if you have anything there sharp enough or heavy enough to break that window.
The plate.
But I was thinking about
the plate shard, actually.
I mean, that could actually just crumble in your hand and cut up your hand.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
And if that happens, you're like, well, I have nothing to cut myself with.
Yeah. So all of this is a very elaborate plan for Nina to be able to get out of that house and run away with her daughter, because she has been trapped in this house in this situation with this guy who is Mr. America and really a psycho.
But
behind closed doors.
After she makes the 21 cuts, and I mean, here's the thing, you're going to be weak as hell at that point. That's some serious blood loss. Then he comes in and he's like, oh, basically, now that you're subservient to me, we can have a life.
Yeah, you have to learn there's consequences, and now that you've been educated as to your wrongdoing and you've done penance for it, we can move forward and have a loving, happy future.
Except she's got was it a knife or a serving thing or
it looked
a butter?
It looked like a serving thing that was from the charcuterie tray earlier.
Yeah,
but for some reason
it wasn't large, but it was definitely.
And it was in the closet that was used as the toilet. And I have to think that Nina put it there, because why else would it be there? Because Nina wanted to give Millie a weapon.
And I can't remember, possibly.
Because why else in this barren room
but here's the
would
thing,
there be this cheese knife?
But you know what? No, I feel like Millie had to have brought that in with her somehow, because he went through and he emptied that damn room. He emptied it. He would have seen that. Unless it was hidden. And if it was hidden, she's probably not going to find it. So I think she
I
might
guess
have,
that's a question mark because we don't really know for sure how she got that.
maybe it was like an ADHD thing. She was doing something serving and then something happened and she ended up just putting it wherever, which was her pocket or something. I'm highly speculating here because I don't know how she got it, but I know it ended up in his neck.
Okay, so we've been talking for 500 years here. So let's get down to
This will be our second longest episode.
Let's get down to
Maybe third if we count the 2 substance episodes.
the biggest what would you do, which is what would you do if you were Nina? Because this entire film transpires because Nina is trapped in this relationship with Andrew and she's scared to run that he'll find her, and her reputation's been ruined. She has no credibility, and this is her idea, is to bring in someone into the house that is Andrew's type and to orchestrate all of this so it gets you kicked out of the house.
Yeah, once she's out, I am dropping an anonymous tip to the police about knowing that he's got someone kidnapped.
Well, and that's where the lack of credibility, unfortunately, comes in, is the entire town thinks that she's a psycho, and that's one of the more damaging parts. Okay.
Anonymous tips. And then by the time that police get there, it's not like he's got time to be able to run up and let her out of the room.
So another what would you do here is, for me, Nina gets kicked out. She acts like she's fighting to stay because, no one really knows what's happening here. She goes to a hotel, she drinks champagne, she dances, and then she seems to hang out and pick up her daughter and go out to lunch. Get the hell out of town, girl. Pick up your kid, push that gas, and don't stop pushing that pedal until you're halfway across the country.
She was planning on getting out of there. She was making plans to do that, but she was out. Here's the thing. It wasn't dire for her to do it right away because she knew that he had found his next little toy. So, though it is interesting because you could say you would call the police. Actually, I have to rethink this now because we don't know exactly how much time passed between when Nina left and when he finally decided to imprison Millie. It could have been a day, could have been a week, it could have been a month. Probably wasn't a month.
I got the impression it was maybe 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, so that's...
They're kind of playing house and having fun and whatnot until she breaks the dish.
Yeah, so if you call them too early...
Yeah, there could be nothing to report.
Yeah, there's nothing, and they're like, we're happy. I don't know what the hell.
Yeah, you're
someone
just
said.
a disgruntled wife who's been cheated on. Yeah, because you have no way of knowing the timing of what's happening in that house.
Yeah, I mean, except for that window.
Yeah, which you can't see and which is at the top of the house
Yeah.
and not visible to anybody.
So, what I'm not doing is I'm not going back in that house if I'm her.
Yeah, and ultimately she does go back because they're going to leave town, and her daughter Cece says, "Well, what about Millie? We got to get Millie." And so Nina goes back to get Millie.
Yeah, when I'm getting on the outside of that door, the attic, you make the assumption that she's in there. I still want an audio clue.
Yeah.
I want her to say yes or hear her.
Yeah, and this is something we haven't talked about yet. It does get out of the attic bedroom.
Yeah, with the knife in the neck.
And gets Andrew trapped in there. So now Andrew's trapped in the attic.
Oh,
so when Nina comes back, she thinks she's going to liberate Millie from the room, but instead she lets out Andrew.
Yeah, that was just beautiful.
Yeah, and it was one of those moments where in the theater we're all like, no, it's Andrew in there, don't do it. And then, Andrew comes out. So
yeah, but not before Millie had made him, for Millie broke a whole bunch of dishes.
Yeah, she gave Andrew a little taste of his own medicine.
And then said, here's a pair of pliers, pull out a tooth.
Yeah, you get a lot of love and
your mom
affection
loves
with
that smile.
Truth, with that smile, yeah.
Your mom loves that smile, and your mom's a bitch, so let's pull out that tooth.
Yeah.
And then literally goes to the point of, hey, as you know, I have been to jail for murder once already. Clearly, I'm willing to go there again. And she dumps a bunch of gasoline underneath the door. And when he hears her strike the match, that is when he's like, tap out, I'm pulling the tooth.
Okay. What would you do in any of those situations? Because we don't just recap here. We say, what would we do? So pick anyone. There are so many.
I fucking love that for Millie. I love that she's turning this around on him.
So your what would you do is you would summon your inner Millie and give him a taste of his own consequences and sick punishment?
Yeah. I'm not burning the house down. If he doesn't call my bluff, that's fine. I'm just literally going to leave him locked up in there.
Yeah, he can
until
die
he dies.
He can die in there.
Until he dies. You don't open that door because you do have the whole male-female. He could easily overpower her.
100% you will lose if you are Millie. Or most women just, that's just physical limitation, unfortunately.
Yeah, so, no, you're not opening that door. You're never opening that door.
Yeah.
But you are going to try to torture him for a while first.
Yeah. My other what would you do is if I had 21 deep gashes in my stomach, I don't know if I would just hang out there to torture Andrew. I think I would get myself some medical care.
Yeah.
Because she just kind of has her dried clothing on it and she's all soaking bloody. But can you imagine 21 long, deep gashes on your stomach?
I feel like
Oh my gosh.
I feel like she was so beyond emotionally spent at that point that she just didn't have it in her.
I think it's too adrenaline. Anytime something happens that is scary or life-threatening, you somehow summon this ability that you don't under any other circumstance to just keep pushing and keep going. And maybe it was some of that as well. But I would certainly try to do a better job addressing my wounds, or any job addressing my wounds at a minimum.
Yeah, probably something along those lines. But yeah, he eventually gets out, and long story short,
this is not a long story short. This is a long
story, really fucking long. He gets pushed over the railing and falls down.
Yay!
Hits its head everywhere, falls, breaks, and then Nina's like, what if we just drop this light bulb along with him? Which I thought was genius. We already knew Nina was genius because she had come up with this whole plan to get out of Andrew, the relationship with Andrew anyway. So yeah, that was probably an easy let's just take this light bulb and whoop.
Yeah, there was a chandelier near the staircase, so you just have the story that Andrew was changing a light bulb because he was a perfectionist and liked everything just so.
In the end, the real saving grace was the reporting officer, who was the sister of the first person who we never actually saw, but had heard about, Kathy, and had seen what happened to Kathy when she came back from here. So maybe literally the one person who would actually believe her.
Well, there was nothing to believe. There was the cover story, but that police officer who was Kathy's sister knew enough about the situation that there was something not right here, and we're just going to let this accident look like an accident and not dig any deeper.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the real world that's not happening. You're going to have forensics. They're going to be like, how do you get a deep gash in your neck from falling?
Yeah, and you're missing a tooth, and there's so many other signs.
I mean, the tooth, maybe you can explain that you hit a railing on the way down or something. The deep gash, there's no...
You chip a tooth. You don't pull it out at the roots.
Yeah, this is not explainable in the real world, but we're going to suspend a little bit of reality here to let her be freed because she got the officer whose sister got screwed over by him already.
So what would you do if you were the officer?
Let her go. Screw that. She knows what happened to her sister and has to easily assume that that's what happened to
Nina
as well. So listen, desperate times call for desperate measures. His death was, it was opportunistic, getting shoved over the railing, but more than justified. More than justified.
Yeah. I'm exhausted. I'm sure everyone listening is exhausted. Folks, this was a great film.
By the way,
I really hope you saw it before you listened to this episode because it was very enjoyable.
I'm also, one other thing I would have done at the funeral, after it's done and everyone's coming up to the grieving wife and the grieving mother and condolences and everything, and she makes some really offhanded comment about basically, yeah, I don't think this happened the way I did.
Who she?
The mother made the offhanded comment to Nina. If I'm Nina, once everyone's gone, I'm turning to her and say, I don't have to deal with you anymore. And you walk away.
She wasn't enjoyable, but I mean, she didn't seem that terrible.
I mean,
she was
not a nice. She
was opinionated, but as far as evil goes, she wasn't even a blip on the radar compared to her son.
Well, maybe. I think was one of those enablers. My son can do no wrong.
Well, and unfortunately, we find out that Andrew's issue about rules and perfection and things being just so is really rooted in his childhood and how his mom treated him.
Yeah, it was.
So what would you do? Not turn your child into a psychopath?
Yeah, but I'm still telling her off on the way out. Yeah, this was a messed up movie, but I mean, I loved it. I mean, ridiculously loved it. So, I guess my final thoughts here is, don't be an asshole, guys. Don't be that guy who's going to drive 3 women to all of this.
I think that's beyond a-hole. I mean, there's someone to do that is obviously some degree of psychopath.
Yeah, clearly.
That's not, he's a jerk or he's an a-hole. That's a whole other level.
Yeah. Those guys, they got to go.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.